Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna and this is for Pause in a Book. I make book and lifestyle related content, so if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Today we are going to be taking a look and seeing if I can trust the booktubers that I watch. Okay, so this is going to be part one in a series that is going to span at least through the end of the year, probably into 2023. I'm going to probably be doing one of these a month. And I'm going to be exploring the idea of trying to see if I can trust the people that I watch and the people that I get recommendations from. So I would say a large majority of the books that I purchase are because someone else recommended it, right? Not every single book, but a large majority, especially when it comes to fantasy, because adult fantasy is not a genre that I read a lot of. I have found a few booktubers that predominantly talk about fantasy books, and because of that, I now have like this whole shelf of books on here that a lot of them are recommendations from one booktuber or another. And now we're going to actually read the books that I purchase and see if I can actually trust their recommendations, and not necessarily like in a bad way. Like obviously, like I'm not trying to say like, are they not trustworthy? I'm trying to see if my taste align with their taste and if I can still take recommendations from them, or if we have really different reading taste altogether. So the first person that I am going to be doing is a booktuber that I found towards the beginning of this year, and she is one of the queens of fantasy, and that is Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy. I met her towards the beginning of the year. I can't remember exactly when. She is the creator of Realmathon, which is a fantasy-based readathon. You could read other books, but it was predominantly like surrounding fantasy books. And it was after that that I really started taking off as far as adult fantasy and really trying to find the books that I liked. And a lot of the recommendations came from her. Now, Cassidy and I have very similar taste on like half of the books. I read City of Brass based on her recommendation and absolutely loved it. That book could probably make my best books of the year. We both really hated A House Across the Lake, which isn't fantasy. That's thriller, but then we have differing opinions when it comes to things like Katie Robert. She really doesn't like Katie Robert. She really hated City of Dusk, and I gave it 3 stars. I didn't love the book, and I can see the criticisms for it. I just did a little bit more than she did. We both pull things out of books very differently. We're looking for different things in books. However, some of our taste when it comes to fantasy really align, and by really align, I mean really align. So I'm gonna try to read some of her recommendations. Now, this series is going to be focused on recommendations and books that the booktuber talked about, and I was intrigued enough to put it on my wish list or go out and purchase it or borrow it from the library or whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean that these books are their all-time favorite books. In fact, I think of these 3 that I'm going to be reading from Cassidy, only one of them was a 5-star read for her. So let's talk about what I'm going to be reading. The first one is going to be Jade City by Fonda Lee. This is the first book in the Greenbone saga. It is an adult urban fantasy. For centuries, honorable Greenbone warriors have used magical jade to enhance their abilities and defend the island of Kikon from foreign invasion. Now the war is over and a new generation vies for control of Kikon's bustling capital city. 4 siblings of the powerful Cowl family must prepare for battle, and the fragile peace between the clans is about to break. So, this isn't one that she gave 5 stars, but it is one that she was talking about in her Discord for her Patreon. And so the more that she talked about it, the more that other people were talking about it in that Discord, the more that I got intrigued by it. I feel like this is going to have a little bit of politics, some like family politics, kind of like almost mafia, maybe. I don't know. But I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued by it. This book was actually a birthday gift from Cassidy, so I felt like I had to put this one on the list. The second book is the book that is probably sitting at like the top of her favorite books of the year for 2022. So I couldn't have really done this video without this book. And that is Malice by John Gwynne, another adult high fantasy. This is a military fantasy, which is what Cassidy really leans towards. I don't necessarily love military fantasy as much, but it's maybe just because I haven't read the right ones. Another book that we have a really, really similar taste on is The Poppy War. We both really loved that book. So, and that's a military fantasy. That's one of her favorite books of all time. So obviously the vibes are going to be different for this book, different author, things like that. But if there's any type of similarities, maybe I was just reading the wrong military fantasy. Maybe that's it. This says, the world is broken. Corbin wants nothing more than to be a warrior under King Brennan's rule to protect and serve. But that day will come all too soon, and the price he pays will be in blood. Evnus has sacrificed. Too much, it seems. But what he wants, the power to rule, will soon be in his grasp, and nothing will stop him once he has started on his path. Veridus is the newest member of the war band for the High Prince. He is one of the most skilled swordsmen to come out of his homeland, yet he is always under the shadow of his older brother. And Nathir has ideas and a lot of plans. Many of them don't involve his father, the High King Aquilius. Why do they always have to have the weirdest names? Nor does he agree with his father's idea to summon his fellow kings to council. The Banished Lands has a violent past where armies of men and giants clashed in battle, but now giants stir anew. Stones weep blood, and there are sightings of giant worms? But it's WIRMS, so not like worms. Cool, okay. Those who can still read the signs see a threat far greater than the ancient wars. For if the Black Sun gains ascendancy, mankind's hopes and dreams will fall to dust, and it can never be made whole again. This is probably the one of the three that I am the most hesitant about and probably the most scared. And then finally, the book that I have already started for this project, and that is Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. This was sold to me as gay fantasy Star Wars. And it's funny because in the author's notes, he says something about this is not a Star Wars novel. But it was heavily inspired by it. And that makes me very happy. I love Star Wars. I love that entire saga. So I have hope for this one. I am about 100 pages in already, and I'm really already loving it. The writing style is very intense. It's not overly wordy, but it's very descriptive in the way that you do know exactly what's going on. And right off the bat, the characters are already getting into shit. So I'm really liking this one so far. So this will be the first one that I go into. There's very little on the back of the book, but it says, not even the ties of blood will keep them from splitting the world in two. Surrounded by the relics of a dead empire, two siblings, one who wields magic for the empire and the other who has vowed to bring it all down, will battle for the fate of their world in the first book of this epic new fantasy trilogy by best-selling author Django Wexler. So, here we are. I'm going to continue reading this one, and I will come back to you with some thoughts. Hello. I'm sitting in the dark and only using my ring light because I'm enjoying this ambiance right now. I redecorated my shelves and everything for fall, and so I'm just enjoying it. And I'm going to move this pillow because it's not working while I'm sitting in this chair. Let's talk Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. I am a little over halfway of the way through this, and I'm loving it. This is going to be a 5-star read for me. This is fantastic. This is my perfect brand of a fantasy novel. There's a lot of descriptive world building in this, and you really know what the world around these characters looks like, but it's not overly flowery and prosy at the same time. Every word in this book feels justified, feels needed. There's nothing excessive in here, right? The other thing I really love is that it started off really fast. You were thrown into action immediately. Chapter 2, they're fighting ghouls, and you're kind of finding out things along the way. There is a glossary in the back, and I have I went too far. I was starting to look at some of the words that looked like they might have a definition in the back, but I was finding that they might use a word and you're kind of expected to know that word, but then in the next chapter they also explain the word in dialogue, in it's natural, it doesn't feel excessive. But I'm finding that I don't necessarily need the glossary as much as I thought I did. So that's good. One of the things, though, that I think is my favorite part of this is the fact that it is not a huge cast of characters, right? A lot of adult fantasy, they always have this huge epic cast of characters, and I am sometimes too dumb for that, and I can't keep track of everyone. But this one has 2 main characters, and then each one has a group that they're kind of going along with, right? So it's kind of easy to understand, to organize between the 2 groups of people. Enjoying that so much. So this is 5 stars so far. I don't see it going downhill from here. We're at the halfway point, and I feel like things are ramping up rather than kind of starting to slog a little bit, like sometimes they can. In, you know, fantasy, sometimes that like little like middle chunk here kind of feels repetitive or just slower in general, but this one is not. This one is starting to ramp up even more, so I'm really excited to get back to this. I would like to finish it this weekend, so stay tuned. Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's talk Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. I gave this 5 stars. I loved this book. This book will 100% make it on my favorite books of the year. This was fantastic. Fantastic. There is like awkward gay moments. There is like everything I want in a fantasy. Maya is so awkward when she like kisses someone. It's the funniest thing in the whole world. And we love her. And I think one of the things that Django does so well with this book is that you're following the perspectives on either side of the empire. So Maya was taken when she was such a young girl and like trained up inside the empire to be a warrior for the empire. And then Geyer, who is her brother, was very upset with what that did to his family. And is basically like in this rebellion. And this is really like comped as a Star Wars like fantasy book. And I see the resemblance, like obviously there's even like swords that definitely look like lightsabers. Like there's definitely a lot of resemblances to that. One of the things that I really love about this book that I think does even better than Star Wars is that there is good in both of those sides. There is not a clear-cut like good side and bad side. It's not like that the Empire is all right or all wrong, or the Rebellion is all right or all wrong. There's so many different facets to that, and I really, really liked that. There was only one thing that I didn't love about this ending, and that is that there is a villain monologue. And it felt a little cheesy. However, in the realm of Star Wars, like, comp titles, that's not outside of the realm of comparison. Because Star Wars does love the villain monologues. So, like, I see it. I see the comparison there. But anyways, 5 stars. This book, made me want to drop everything. Like, literally disband this entire video and just read Blood of the Chosen. I really just want to read that. I know that I still have Malice and Jade City, which are huge books, and I have like a week and a half to read them with other books also in this. So it's a little stressful, I'm not gonna lie. I just want to read Blood of the Chosen. So we'll see how that all works out. I also emailed Orbit for an arc of Emperor of Ruin, which is the 3rd book in the series that comes out in January. So if anyone at Orbit is watching this video, my email is down below. NetGalley arc, something, please. This will 100% make a favorite books of the year. No question about that. Let's move on to book number 2, which is going to be Malice by John Gwynne. I started this book last night, and I got about 75 pages of the way into it. I was on sprints last night trying to read this, and I'm finding that I definitely need to have the audiobook and the physical book at the same time. I'm kind of reading them in tandem, and I can 100% see why Cassidy likes this book so much. I think she said that she liked it like from page 1, and I totally see why she likes it. This one, however, I think is the one that I am the most nervous about of the 3. And if I was ranking the 3 of them, like prior to reading them, this is going to be hard to say. It's going to sound like I'm cheating, but I probably would have still put Ashes of the Sun at the top just because it had a little bit more of a sci-fi element, and then Jade City, and then this one. This one is historical fantasy. It takes place in like the the medieval times, but with magic. And that is my least favorite time period to read about, second to like maybe World War II. Yeah, it takes place in like the 1100s. I did start reading it, and I immediately told Derek, this is a book that you will like, because that's like his favorite time period to read. We do not have a lot of similarities when we read. It's fine. But anyways, I'm not hating this book by any stretch of the imagination. It's just, it's very dense. It's hard to get into. And I was finding that I was just listening to the audiobook, I was zoning out a little bit. The audiobook narrator is really great in the fact that it really sounds like he's telling you a story. It's a like very oratory, kind of like old grandpa telling you a story. However, it is a very easy sound to like just zone out on. So, yeah, I don't really have a lot to talk about yet, because obviously 75 pages in, but here we are. I'm going to continue reading that. I would love to finish this book by the end of the weekend. I don't know that that is going to happen. I have another book that I have to read on Saturday, for another project that I am doing, and then it's already Thursday, so like, I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, let's get back to it.
Hello. It is several days later. I'm sitting in my car. Cassidy does car updates in her vlogs, so I figured this worked. It's kind of like on brand, right? It's several days later. My hair has changed. But I wanted to check in with you guys and let you know that I am DNFing Malice. And like, here's the thing. I understand why it works for Cassidy. 100%. I understand that I am in the minority of people who probably do not like this book, because a lot of people really like this book. So I get it. I'm in the minority of people that didn't like it. I just really didn't care. I got like over 200 pages of the way into the book, and I was just like, every time I was like, oh my God, I still have 6 hours of this audiobook. Oh my God. Like, I didn't want to pick it up, and I was afraid it was going to put me in a slump. This book definitely has like this classic high fantasy vibe to it. So if you are a fan of Game of Thrones or other classic type fantasy books, you'll really like this. I'm not. And I think that we're finding this out through this video. So like, while technically this video ends up being a bust because this is her favorite book, this is the reason I made this whole video. Like, this was the pinnacle of it, the cornerstone. And so now we're a little bit, I don't know, I don't know, we're still learning things here. But yeah, we're learning things. That's the update. I totally understand why Cassidy loves this book. And then here's the thing. It's probably a softie enough. I might go back to it. The reason I don't have the book with me is Derek is actually reading it. Because as I was reading it, I'm like, I don't love this, but this is definitely a book that Derek will love. This is right up his alley. So maybe Derek should be taking fantasy recommendations from Cassidy, not me. I don't know. Because I also think he would like Ashes of the Sun. So we're going to start Jade City. I'm about 20% of the way through it already. I am enjoying it. It's a little bit middle of the road right now. Like, it's kind of sitting at 3.5 stars, but like, obviously it's 20% of the way in. So like, when I go into a book, I kind of like start at a middle type rating, and then it'll go up or down, like based on how I'm enjoying it. So yeah, that's what we're doing. But it's middle of the road right now. There's a lot going on. There is a little bit of info dumping. But I have hope. It's more urban fantasy, which I like. I do know that Cassidy only gave this one like 3.5 or a 4-star. I can't remember exactly. So it wasn't a great book for her. So I'll let you know when I get a little farther into it. Hello, good evening. I am coming to you from a hotel room because I need to finish up this vlog. And I finished Jade City. I meant to follow up with you when I was at about the halfway mark, but my feelings never really changed on this book. It was very middle of the road the entire time. There were parts of it that I really liked. I liked the beginning when we were really getting these family politics and the drama and how the family was restructuring itself and that kind of thing. I liked that. I really liked Shay. I think she's an excellent character. I think that she's just very badass. She's kind of like this black sheep of the family, just kind of a little bit of a rebel, but still trying to gain her grandfather's approval. I liked it. I liked the sibling dynamic. But the actual plot of the book, I don't know, I feel like it never really like got up and started going. Like, this book felt like an old car that takes a while to get going on a freeway. That's what it felt like to me. So I ended up giving this book 3 stars. It's not my favorite. I will probably continue on with the series. I liked the audiobook, so that's a plus. I'll continue on with the series, but it's definitely not like a favorite of mine. We'll see what happens in the second and third books. So what did we learn? Cassidy and I do not have identical taste. We knew that already. We have some books that we are very similar. Like, we have very similar opinions on the Poppy War, City of Brass. We have very similar opinions on these things. But then there are some that we're very different. We have very different opinions on. And that's okay. I think that if nothing else, this has given me, like, the ability to just kind of hone in on certain recommendations that Cassidy gives, or books that she's talking about, where, you know, she might say something about a book, and it might even be something that she doesn't like about a book that might end up as a buzzword for me. So I think that there are some things, you know, that she talks about that I will be really interested in. And then there might be other things that she talks about that I'll just be like, I'm going to skip that. There might be a time where she says that she really likes a book because of, you know, for example, it has a really large cast of characters. I think that I don't really like a large cast of characters, and I think that might have been what hurt a couple of these books. But then, like Ashes of the Sun, which was a huge win for this vlog, for this project, does not have a large cast of characters. It has 2 main central characters, and then each one of them kind of has their little group. So I don't know, maybe that's something we learned. Obviously, you're never going to have exact reading taste with someone else. I don't think that there's anyone here, like, that I know of that has exact reading taste to me that will rate the book, like every single book, exactly the same. Reading is so subjective and it's so personal, and that's what makes reading so great, and I think that's what makes BookTube so great, is that we can have differences of opinions and like different things about books, and still like be able to talk about them and be able to recommend books to each other and things like that. So you know, was this a win as far as like my tastes are aligned, my tastes are the same as Cassidy's? No. But, you know, we learned things. I read some real chunky fantasies, which I, you know, needed a project to be able to do because those scare me. They intimidate me. So anyway, Ashes of the Sun, big win. Malice was a DNF. However, Derek is reading it this week, so there's that. That is all I have for you today. I'm gonna have Cassidy linked down below, of course, and you should go check out her channel if you you know, like any of these books. You know, or not, you should check out her channel anyways. She has a really fun TBR game. She is a genius when it comes to like the creative side of BookTube. She has some very fun videos that are out right now. That is all I have for you today. If you are new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button that you can do so down below the video. If you'd like to hang out with me more, I do have my very own Patreon. We have an exclusive Discord and other exciting perks. My link to that is down below, as well as my link to my Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.